In one of the most brutal engine competitions we've ever run, two legends square off against each other. A Coyote built by fast-forward race engines, an LT built by late model engines. Powered by 76mm HPT turbos, it was one of the closest dyno runs we've ever seen. In the end, it was the Coyote pulling out the win. We're now back for round 2, where we put up or shut up on the ultimate proving ground.
Oh hey, welcome to this episode of the C10 Shootout presented by Summit Racing. Today we are at Custom by Bigun's in beautiful Mooresville, North Carolina, where we are taking a look at the C10 that he's building, the Coyote 10, that has that FFRE nasty 1400 plus horsepower turbo Coyote. We're gonna pin Eric down and get his details on how he's building this, what he's doing, why he's doing it, and it's gonna be really, really informative, trust me. So one of the big things that Bigun's trying to show off with this build is his custom fabrication skills. You know, he's basically grafting a Camaro front end onto this C10 to make it work better. He's building an absolutely wicked rear suspension on this truck. There's a lot that's going into it in how he envisions this build, working with James on what he wants to see. And, you know, pairing that with that Coyote engine, that ATI transmission, and you know, with the fuel that they're running on E85, it's really going to kind of be this really complex drag and drive truck that shows off what he can do and how he can do it, his vision of what he wants to see a drag and drive truck look like in the form of the Coyote 10. Previously on the C10 Shootout, we saw Team Bigun begin the teardown on their very clean example of a 1972 C10. We also watched Eric begin to lay down the framework of what he was turning this truck into. This included utilizing parts such as the 4-link from Competition Engineering and new suspension components from AFCO shocks. At this point, the roll cage and main components of the chassis and suspension had come together. It was becoming more and more evident that the custom work being put into the 4-link setup was quickly becoming the centerpiece of this build.
Alrighty, another update. Cage is all in. I mean, from the side, you can't even see that it has a cage. Tucked behind the A-post. B-post, you can barely see it poking out. Got the front bars in and the sheet metal back on. So that's how that worked out. Bars going through the sheet metal, and I flare a little hole. 1.5 inch flare is 1 5/8 once it's flared, so the 1 5/8 tube fits right through it. So I will locate my coilover next, and we'll do shock sensor mounts, brake line tabs, everything up front here. I believe the motor will be here today or tomorrow. We will see. But it is it's at the hub in Charlotte, so it should be here soon. So firewall, got all those patches done. So all that worked out good. And in the back, got these bars in. Another bar there, another kicker bar there. So the radiator is going to go right there. So it should work out really good. So the black line is the top of the bed. This is the top of the bed. This is the top of the bed. So the carbon fiber is going to sit flush on the bed sides and those bars. So I'm going to do a couple more kickers from here for the hoop coming down and going to the frame. So there'll be a bar there. Got the canister mounts mounted. So these AFCOs run a canister for the compression side, and just made some brackets to mount those up. We'll put foam and stuff on and get the correct size hose clamps. Put the wheel and tire on this side. So just checking everything out, the rotor. I'll put a caliper up and figure out where we need to put our brake line tab for our whip lines for the calipers. And there'll be another brake line tab here, hard line down up under the chassis. We usually hide them pretty good where there's no interference or anything's gonna hit the ground and puncture your brake line tabs. But looking pretty good out here. So now it's gonna be a lot of seat belt tabs for the seat belts, our back harness bar tabs, steering column. We are going to have to do a drive shaft hoop, and more than likely notch some back here for drive shaft clearance. So we got this thing super low, and we got to have room for the drive shaft. But that's about where we're at right now. And hopefully next it'll be a motor sitting in the frame rails, and start making some headers and brake lines and fire system, battery mount, all that kind of good stuff. What you doing over there, Eli?
Okay, putting stickers in the tank.
All right. So that should be, we'll probably do some bead rolls on that. And not sure what we're doing on coating or painting on that yet, but we'll see how that goes. And I got the swing out door bars done yesterday. So we did a swing out so we could take them in and out. You know, if you want to drag and drive deal and drive this thing and not race it. We've got real short stubs top and bottom, so they won't be too much of a hindrance getting in and out. So they'll quick pin and bolt in, so you can take them out fairly easy. We got the firewall sanded down, so it should be frame rails sanded. We will epoxy prime and paint all this stuff satin black. So hopefully get all this ready for when the motor shows up. We can go right in with the motor and not have to come back out. So we welded all the holes up that we don't need. We still got to poke holes for the Holly harness come through the firewall, stuff like that. But everything is welded up. We just have to punch our new holes. But we can do that with fresh paint, so that's no big deal. We just got a package in. Motor in a box. Sweet Coyote, FFRE, hot off the dyno, ready to go. So headers may work for what we need. If not, we got to build them. Turbo and whatever else is in the boxes here, but should have all the Holly stuff already on it. Like I said, it came off the dyno. We'll have the tune to fire it up on and whatnot. And we need it in the frame rails.
It is very clear that Eric is taking a different approach to building the Coyote 10 when compared to the Big 10. The back half of this truck has started to come together as a piece of automotive artistry. The C10 Drag Shootout wouldn't have been possible without our friends at Summit Racing. Why, might you ask? Well, they hooked our teams up with $7,500 in gift cards to help their builds at Summit Racing Equipment. That gave them the opportunity to get the right parts they needed to make these builds possible. They were able to use the Summit Racing website 24 hours a day to get those parts and get them quick. How quick? Well, they came to these teams so fast they make you a #1 qualifier at about any race. So that's right. Make sure you check out summitracing.com for all of your horsepower needs.
How's it going?
Going, man. It's good to see you. Good to see you. Looks like you made some progress with the truck. Tell me what you're doing, man. Let's talk about this truck back to front, because you know this truck in OEM form. It was a cherry. It was a nice truck, and you guys have clearly done some work to it. So let's talk about it back to front, man. Starting up with the front here. What do you got going on? Because this did not come from other GM like this.
No, it did not. We wanted to try to cut as much weight out as we could, you know, because these things are big and heavy.
Yeah.
You know, so we weighed it when it came in with a small block, 7R4 and rally wheels, got a base weight, and then we're going to weigh it again at obviously race weight when we set it up. So I wanted to do something in the front that utilize steel stock frame per the rules and whatnot. So, you know, any of the bolt-on stuff running a small tire, a skinny tire, they were sucked up onto the truck so far. So we put it on the chassis plate and got my tread width where I wanted it with the RC comps, you know, spaced out. So that basically set my tread width, and I made control arms. So that's a first-gen Camaro TRZ spindle. I just reamed them out and run NASCAR ball joints, NASCAR monoballs, you know, and then the AFCO coilover. So that's basically the same style front suspension I got on my Camaro. You know, so that's been on there since 2012 or whatnot. So I feel, you know, that was pretty much the easiest and lightest option I could come up with. You know, and then we had to brace up the frame, box it in or whatnot. But the Coyote was so wide. To be a small motor, it is a big motor.
She got big hips.
She's big. So I had to C-notch the frame sideways for the mid plate to fit. So the alternator and everything, you know, is there. So it's, you know, the footprint of the Coyote is a big deal. So it's 37 inches from the oil pan to the top of the intake, so it's sticking out of the hood.
Oh, wow.
Yes, sir. So it's big. We took the body bushings out of the body and bolted it to the frame to essentially lower the body, get as low as we can. We got a 4.5 inch, you know, ride height on this thing, so it's going to be in the dirt. So built a K-member, did the strange rack up front, so everything should be good there. Mid-plate motor plate, strange dual master cylinder there with the line or the portion valve.
Let's talk about the rear of the car and the stuff that the parts you got from competition engineering and kind of how you set this up. Because again, when you walk to the rear of the truck, Yeah, they did not come like this for
no, they did not.
You know, in the 70s. So what do we got going on here?
So again, I wanted to get these trucks that we've done, a bunch of S10s or whatnot, and I always struggled being nose heavy. And this thing is going to be even worse.
With that Coyote
with the
there.
Coyote, and just trying to get some weight back here. So we did the 22-gallon radiant fuel cell. So I went with a bigger cell in case I needed to put 22 gallons of fuel in it. You know, that's free ballast that we can put back here, easy ballast. So if I need to run 5 gallons, I can run 5 gallons. But, you know, just, of course, drag and drive 2, we'll be able to drive it down the road on 22 gallons. So we opted to 4-link it, and Competition Engineering has their adjustable 4-link bracket, so we can...
That's beefy.
Yeah, we can go anywhere with that. So if we want to go slick tire racing, radial racing, so obviously we're going to be on a radial, and have this thing in anti-squat. So you're cutting some weight out of the back, putting the radiator back here, the transmission coolers back here, built the ductwork and everything, so the air's coming from up underneath the truck to cool the radiator.
Let's talk about what you've done with the roll cage in the back half of the truck right here, because typically when you see guys build drag trucks, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. You see it coming out of the glass or out of up here. This kind of looks like, did you take some inspiration from trophy truck racing? Or, you know, this, like you look at the back of this truck, it's like, is this a Baja 1000 truck?
Right.
Like, you know, this is some high-tech hillbilly engineering.
We've done quite a few full-size trucks and S10s and not came through the cab, you know, up top. We brought them down low here. So this height is the height of the bed. So it's going to have a carbon fiber bed cover. It's going to cover this part for the street or for the track. You fold it back for the street, and it'll pull the air through. So I wanted a really clean look, you know, with nothing exposed. We did a really tight roll cage. I mean, from the side, you can hardly even see the bars. You won't see any bars sticking out of the cab. Just everything's going to be underneath the bed. So I wanted a clean look and strength. You know, we had to do a lot of bracing underneath because that does strengthen it up a good bit. So we still got to, you know, do some X bracing underneath, but it should be super strong.
Yeah, let's take a look at, you know, talking about the cage that you've put inside this truck. You know, get inside there and get a look at this thing. Like, that's tight, man. That is like really, again, you know, James is going to make a hit, and they're going to ask him, where's the roll cage in this thing? You know, it's like that old Wolf cage I had in my 4th Gen F body. I used to always get stopped at the top end because they're like, he's going too quick without a roll cage. And, you know, you got to pop up with the window and say, here it is.
Right.
Like, he's going to have to show this thing off. Is that part of, like, one of the challenges you had in, like, you know, we'll talk about the overall challenges of building this truck. You know, we could start with this right here. Was that a challenge trying to get this cage in here this tight?
Yeah, absolutely. We pride ourselves on making, you know, clean builds, you know, with a tight cage, clean wiring, you know, easy to work on and function. So, you know, that was our whole goal with this thing, where you walk up to it, like you say, you don't even see the cage from the outside.
I mean, wow.
You know, with the bed cover down, you won't, you know, see any of the 4-link stuff in the back.
No.
So it worked out really good, and, you know, hoping it'll turn out to be a really clean build.
I mean, notice you got the fire bottle tucked in here like this. I mean, this is like, again, it's those little details like that which are awesome, but it makes it a challenge. You know, with as far as the rest of the truck, you know, what are some of the bigger, you know, again, you're re-engineering this. What are some of the other challenges you run into creating this monster? Yeah,
I mean, obviously these things have to cool going down the road. You know, so that was a big deal. If you put a radiator back here, you better have a good cooling system. So we got 2 big Spall fans. When all the ductwork is in, the Spall fans go there. They'll pull, and you'll have scoops underneath and pull in air from underneath. So this thing should cool no issue. It's got a huge transmission cooler back here with a Spall fan on it. You know, we should be able to drive this thing 1,000 miles, no problem. So that's, you know, if you can't drive it and make it to the race, then you're no good.
You know, why'd you go this route?
To free up room for the front, to put the turbo, I want to center mount the turbo and move weight in the back. You know, so if we get this radiator back here, transcooler back here, it's going to, you know, get our bias where it needs to be, and it's going to hopefully function really good and look really good. So these are pullers. So these are Spall puller fans. So they're going to pull air from underneath. So this ductwork from underneath is actually going to scoop the air from underneath the truck and pull it out. So I'll have a cover to cover these things for the track, and the cover will come right back, hinge back, and expose it for the street.
Which radiator did you end up using?
AFCO. So I got AFCO double pass radiator, and these are AFCO double pass tranny cooler. And it has a Spall fan underneath. So as the air comes out and it comes through here, so we should be good to go.
So putting a cooling system and mounted that far from the engine itself, I'm sure that possesses some interesting challenges. What are those challenges? How'd you overcome those?
It does. We're going to hardline underneath the truck for the radiator and the intercooler. So we have a Mooresville pump right on the inside of the ductwork that is going to do our ice water to our tick intercooler up front. So there'll be 4 lines going forward. Return and feed for the radiator, return and feed for our intercooler pump, and everything's going to hardline underneath, and we'll flex dash 16s to it. So run a mechanical pump on the Coyote and Mooresville pump on the brushless for the intercooler.
And I guess that, it's fun to do trick stuff like this to a certain degree, but it's that plumbing side that kind of presents that challenging, because now you've got, instead of, we'll say, a foot of cooling hose, now you've got multiple feet transversing the entire length of the truck. Oh, that'll get your attention. Transversing the entire length of the truck and, going through a height transition and everything else. And I guess maybe a slight advantage would be you get more volume for cooling.
For sure. You got to look at all that. Even we got the Moroso fill surge tank up front. That's the highest point. So we run a vacuum system. We fill these things anyway and suck all the air out. So we'll be able to fill it back here. The Moroso deal will be the highest point of the surge tank. So it'll fill the motor, fill all this. So getting the air out is a big deal. And like you say, doing the hard lines underneath. Hopefully nothing. Road debris will come up and puncture a line, so that's another safety deal you got to look at. But yeah, it's going to hold more volume, so it should be a good setup. We're excited to get it all working. So,
in designing something like this, there's also plans, since it is not just a straight up race truck, it's a drag and drive truck, it's a street vehicle. You've got to probably take into consideration serviceability, repairability and stuff like that as well. If you've got to do something, you can't, bury stuff. You've still got to be able to get at it. Is that kind of playing into the mounting and how you're doing a lot of this stuff?
Oh, absolutely, man. I've seen a bunch of these radiators mounted wrong. Welding tabs on the tank and letting it bounce on the tank, and the tank will rip out. But these things come with mounting plates top and bottom, so we try not to have anything rubbing them. The fan shroud not hitting the lips of the fins. So there's a lot in the build process. You got to build it right. Just so you're not shooting yourself in the foot, because like you say, if you can't drive it from track to track on these drag and drives, then you're out of the competition.
Well, even just track to track, if you want to go get ice cream in it, you don't want to have to worry about it. You hit a pothole if it's going to rip a tab off a radiator.
Absolutely.
Or something else, right?
Absolutely.
What advantages do you feel the Coyote has over the LT? Because that's then the LT is very similar power band, but you think there's some advantages the old Howling Monster has over that LT?
On the drag and drive side of it, I think it's ideal. Your valve train is a big issue on a drag and drive. You're not a 900 cubic inch big block with 900 inches of lift, killing valve springs and rocker arms and push rods. This thing might have 130 on the seat on these valve springs. So there's no, valve train issue to worry about, per se. Everything, they've got it figured out, on chains and all whatnot. But, I think valve train wise, this is ideal for a drag and drive setup. So, they can make a ton of power. Look at your Supras, the 4 cylinders, small cubic inch, make a ton of power. I think we'll have the right transmission converter. We've got the ATI with 3 different stators. So if we get this thing tested and get it in its power band where it needs to live, I think we'll be in really good shape.
You can make all the horsepower in the world, but it's useless if you can't put it to the ground. And you need a pretty burly transmission for something like this. Why, let's talk about why did you guys go with this particular unit from ATI and what kind of what's going on with it.
Yeah, the 400 turbo stuff has been around forever, and they've I wouldn't say bulletproof, but they're really, really good. Anything can break, but I would trust putting this in, no problem. This is what I've got in my car: 3-speed 400. 210 low gear, 142nd, 1 to 1/3, and then it's a second gear leave option, so the trans brake will work in low gear or second gear. So if we get to the track and the track's greasy or whatnot, we can leave in second gear. It's got a spool valve, so internal spool valve, so we use that to essentially take the fluid away from the converter, spool it, get the motor up on the turbo, and then it'll close back. 2 dumps for external dumps, manipulate converter pressure on our launch and down track. You know, it's a really good setup that shouldn't have to have any issues with this whole deal.
All right, so we're placing the battery in here, and I'm kind of curious to figure out why we're putting this Optima battery right here, because, you know, most of the time there's different ways and, you know, places you want to put it further back. Why are we putting it right here?
They're again getting weight to the back and low. You know, so if we get everything back here as we can, it actually cleans up a lot of the wiring. We do a shut off for the driver, and you got to have a cable to the back for an HRA deal that shuts the whole power off. So cable wise, it's way better. For weight distribution, it's better. It's a better source for everything. We can run all of our relays, you know, the big power and grounds, everything. So it works out good. Move to the back.
So it's kind of better in the back, even from the same sense, versus a lot of times, a lot of race cars, you'll see it further back and, you know, to the right, like in a rear tire well.
Yep.
This way you've kind of got it more mid-mounted, sort of like, would it be akin to when people put turbos close to the firewall and down low or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's all a balance deal. I mean, you got to factor in your wheelbase, you know, crank height, you know, how the center of gravity, what your ride height is. So it's a lot of deals, just a balancing act, you know. So, you know, moving the turbos behind the front tires versus the front, you know, in front of the tires is a huge weight swing. But yeah, getting the battery back here, I mean, even in length of cable, you know, the cables here was going to be about 3 foot instead of 10 foot.
Yeah.
You know, so that adds up. So yeah, we like to you know, position on these trucks in this area for sure.
So in typical drag racer fashion, we're taking things that aren't meant to do something and making them do it. One of which is, you know, again, C10s didn't come with these rear ends, didn't come with 4-links. Like, how did you guys figure out what to order, like with this, for a custom 4-link deal with this? Did you get a blank housing, or did they send something with the brackets on it? Like, how did you make this happen?
Yeah, so basically we like to start with the wheel and tire we're going to run. You know, so that's the first thing. We get it at ride height. We get the wheel and tire set exactly where we want it. I got a fixture that moves it in and out and sets our tread width where it needs to be. Call Strange up, tell them I need it wheel to wheel if it's 54 inches and, you know, 2.5-inch brake offset. The housing's going to be, you know, 5 inches shorter than that. They'll send axles, send the housing already cut. So that's the way I like to do it. Start with the wheel and tire you're going to run. You know, on the truck, it's pretty easy with the straight bed size, but like, you know, a car that has any kind of radius or anything, it's really important to get the wheel and tire where you want it to be. And yeah, just order straight from them right where you want it to be, you know, because it is a custom deal. You know, this one we did order it without the end zone so we could slide our 4-link brackets on. So that is one thing that if you want to do it that way, you got to put the 4-link brackets, you know, where it's going to be on the chassis. So yeah, that's one thing to look at, and just try to not, you know, put yourself in a box and, you know, start from the wheels and go in.
That's how I was going to say. It kind of makes sense with something like this. It's a custom application to order it where it doesn't have the brackets on there, so you can kind of be the captain of your own destiny with how you set that up.
Absolutely, yeah. We weld them on first, and I like to do all the welding on it anyway and weld the ends on last, because any shrinkage, you want them ends dead set on the center. So our fixture, you know, has a big bar to go through it and sets it off with the bearing surfaces inside, so everything is nice and straight. And
then if you also have custom note, it looks like where you've got the 1 brackets here, the 1 brackets there, just based again on how the truck's set up and the offset.
Yep, so we did a center pinion on these 9 inches. You're gonna have that a little bit with the center section offset. So this pinion is dead center of the tread width, dead center in the car. So we centered the whole engine, transmission, and rear ends all centered now.
There's no turbo swap kits for a Coyote into a C10. So you guys have to do a little bit of engineering, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was a tight fit. You know, getting the frame rails were narrow and the motor's big, so that's not a good combo.
We can look at more of that in a second. But again, when you're building something like this, you know, you got like these cool, like vibrant
Yeah, the quick seal, man, there's a new pinless deal. It's really cool. You know, so this is one of the issues we ran into with the throttle body. So I had to make a funnel, and I don't want the silicone deal. You know, they'll blow off. So, you know, the Vibrant Quick Seal is a pinless deal that doesn't take any tools or anything for a pin to come out. So it's a really cool setup they come up with, and so it'll all be a quick seal, let it move around a little bit, and then it'll go straight to the turbo. Those pinless deals is a really neat deal.
What else? They sent some other stuff to build the turbo system too, didn't they? Because again, it's you're trying to solve problems. What's this doohickey here?
So I don't like to use the mesh expansion joints. This is their double slip. So as this thing goes together, it will let it move on the hot side just enough to not break any of your welds, but also seal up. With the double slip, as soon as you get heat in it, it seals up. So we like to use their double slip stuff on the hot side. You know, and all their header stuff, we got all the different radiuses to make the headers flow together good. Use the Vibrant collectors and.
I was gonna say, let's take a look at this because you guys created some. You made all this stuff directly with the turbo system, didn't you?
Yeah, yep. So it's like I say, I think I used 3 or 4 different radiuses. You know, so you use a tight radius and a big radius, so they kind of flow together. 1 3/4 065 16 gauge to a 1 3/4 to 2.5 collector. You know, so it's a Vibrant V band here, and we'll go down and merge it together to the HPT turbo.
When you're talking to AFCO to get shocks for this obviously, again, isn't an off-the-shelf situation. You vomit some data at them on what you need, what you're doing. Kind of walk me through how you picked out these shocks and suspension travel and made it all work for this application.
Yeah, so this is a radial setup. So we're on a Mickey Thompson radial tire, and it's going to separate, so it's going to extend. So this is a 7-inch stroke radial valved AFCO canister shock. So the compressor's up here, rebounds on the shaft, but it's 7-inch stroke. So we should. We'll probably have a bar in this thing to get 4.5, 5 inches of travel. You know, so it'll be planting the tire as it's going down track. So you know, the valving and everything is crucial on a radial setup, or any of them really. But you know, having a double adjustable shock to control compression and rebound is crucial.
And again, that's something that you kind of got to do the math and figure out when you're trying to. You basically have the idea, hey, I want this much suspension travel, and then did you have to kind of walk that back with AFCO, be like, this is what we need, what do you have that's going to fit inside this box?
Absolutely. So the spring rate, we got to get that right. You know, so getting the spring rate to hold the truck up, you know, and having. I'll probably set up with 1.5 inches of shaft, and then we'll have all the rest of it in extension. So we'll have all the rest in extension, and AFCO had a radial valve, so the valving on this is for a radial tire, and they know exactly what we're trying to do with it. And it should be good on the extension side of it, so we should be in good shape.
So it just kind of worked out being able to know your measurements. They had what you needed, didn't require anything too crazy or anything
Absolutely.
like that.
So we got a shock sensor. We got a race pack shock sensor on this thing too. So when we do test this thing, and we'll be able to tell, okay, we went 3 inches of travel and 0.7 of a second. We'll know exactly how fast our rebound is. We can click it, tighter, looser. So that's another benefit of having data. To tell AFCO if we need to make a change on it or whatnot, we can tell them, all right, we're maxed out, we need more, but hopefully we'll be in the ball game with these.
So you guys chose to do something a little bit non-traditional with this rear suspension. You got a lot of this stock from competition engineering to build the cage and build what you were going to do. Why go through the cab, and how did you guys, what are some tips if someone's wanting to build something this kind of rigid?
So yeah, we used the 1 5/8 083, 1 1/4 095 chromoly. We did not do the ones coming from the hoop down, so we kept it right at the top. This is the top of the bed, so the carbon fiber bed cover is going to be all flush. So it should be a really clean look once it's all said and done. But with doing that, you got to triangulate and do a lot of gusseting and make it stout from underneath. So there's a lot of structure underneath, and we're still going to add another X underneath once we get the training mount and everything. So there's a lot to go into it to make it structurally sound enough for the 4-link to be strong enough to take all the power.
After our time with Eric, he continued to make progress on getting the HPT turbo mounted now that the Coyote was in the truck. With race day quickly approaching, the Coyote 10 was coming together in its final stages.
It sticks out just the top of it, really, so all this is getting Cerakoted anyway. We got our intake tube, throttle body, FFRE, valve covers, turbo all masked up. So let's get some Coyote tan sprayed on these parts. Should look good. Alrighty, we got the Cerakote done. I think it turned out pretty badass. This is a Coyote tan fitting for the Coyote. Got the hot side done. So got the gates mounted, 50 millimeter VS Racing. Got our Vibrant slip collector, double slip. So yeah, I think it turned out pretty good.
Well, that's a wrap for this episode of the C10 Shootout presented by Summit Racing. The next time we see these trucks is going to be at Dragway 42, where they are going to be locked into battle to see who has built the best truck. Might even show you some dyno pics, vids, whatnot of them going together, but it's time. Pull those belts tight. We're going to go racing very soon at the C10 Drag Shootout presented by Summit Racing. Coming up on Horsepower Wars Season 4.
We are working now. Awesome.